My husband and I bought the property in March 11th of 1952, and we took over at May 6th, 52. And I've been here ever since. It's a motel and restaurant and gas station at that time, and we operated that at the time, and I've been there ever since.
Really? Was there much business in 1952?
At 52, there was no, it was only one road in Florida, and that, on this side, and that was Highway 1. And we're on Highway 1. Bridge Road, which we're on the corner of Bridge Road and Highway 1, had just been paved, but it was only paved out about, let's see, it would be about 7 miles just beyond where the turnpike was going to go. And that was so that that road would be there so the turnpike would go over it. But before that, it was a dirt road, and it was different. They straightened it in a way, but not quite straight to come west.
What brought you here? How did you find the property in Hope Sound?
We had been coming to Florida for 4 or 5 years, but we had always stayed. First time we stayed in Fort Myers, and then after that we stayed in Lake Worth. And my husband was a sailor on the Great Lakes up in Michigan. And the sailors came to Lake Worth, a lot of them, so there were lots of people we knew. But when we were here, my husband saw this advertised in the paper, and he came up to see the property. He had been sick, and he decided he wanted to get off the lakes. So we bought the property, came up, saw it, bought the property, and went back home, sold our home, and came back.
So he was a commercial sailor, not a pleasure sailor.
Oh yes, he's commercial. He had his pilot's license for unlimited tonnage on the Great Lakes, and he was on the iron ore freighters before we came.
And can you tell me a little about what that property looked like when you purchased it, and what it had been before you purchased it?
Well, we have tried to keep it just the same as it was, the restaurant itself. And fact is, we are serving out the same size kitchen that it was built in 40. And of course we have preparation room places in the back so that we can prepare food, but the actual preparation and the finishing of all of the plates that go out come from this tiny kitchen.
So it was built, this motel was built before Camp Murphy existed?
Probably at about the same time. This motel was built, I say, in 40-41, because that is when Mildred Hancock bought it, according to my abstract. And she is the one that built it. And some man had bought the property of the South Fork, Kitchen Creek in the South Fork of the Loxahatchee, and had taken out all of the down Pecky cypress that was in there, the cypress. That is the red heart cypress, and that grows only where salt water and fresh water meet. And these big logs were pulled out, went to a sawmill, and all of our building is red heart Pecky cypress from Kitchen Creek on the North Fork of the Loxahatchee.
Do you mean those trees were living when they were harvested, or were
No, they're called water cured because they were taken out of the water, pulled out of the water, and cut, and went to the sawmill.
So they were submerged.
They were submerged. They were
And
in the
they
water.
were the remnants of earlier.
Of earlier, yes. And you can see in my restaurant large, wide boards. So they had to be real big cypress. And we don't do anything. It's not, I have never used anything on it but to clean it with ammonia water for the 48 years. And you can look at the size of the boards, and of course the stringers in the restaurant, all solid is either solid cypress.
So just the lumber is of great significance.
Great significance. If you really don't know about the lumber, you may not like it, but it is really very nice, very different. One of my most interesting things about the lumber, we had gone north for vacation, but gone a couple weeks. We came back and some people were sitting at the table in the front window, probably the same table that's there now, because we have tried to keep all of the original things good as we can. And the man said to him, "How long did it take the termites to eat this?" And my husband said, "Oh, we just went away for a couple weeks and came back, and it was all done." And it was, he did not know what kind of wood he was looking at, because termites seldom taste cypress of any kind. So he got up and left right away.
So that husband was a tease.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Were your children born when you purchased them?
2 children were born in Michigan, and I had my 3rd child when he came up to see the property. And then 2 boys, my 2 boys have been born since we were here. And Harry is my youngest son, and he's the one that's with me now at the restaurant called Harry and the Natives. We never changed the name from the farm because we came from farms and we sort of liked it. But after my husband died and I was alone, and Harry called and he said, "If you haven't sold the place, how would it be if I'd come back and we would open it up for a restaurant again?" Before that, we just served coffee, cold drinks, and beer. It was just, and fellows came in and sat down and talked and visited over a couple of beers and went home, because we didn't keep long hours. We closed at 7 o'clock.
Today, do you stay open later?
7 o'clock.
Really?
Yes. We're open for breakfast. We've always been open early, but we open for breakfast now at 6 o'clock. We have breakfast until 11 during the week, 12 on Sunday, and we stop serving lunch at 2:30, and the bar is open until 7 every night but Saturday, and we're closed Monday.
Do you live on the property?
My son does. We lived at the property for a long time. Let's see, I was figuring out, we lived there until probably 72 or 73. And then we just said part of the family stayed at the house that we had built, and someone else usually stayed on the property.
Did any of your children go to the Olympia School, the little school in Hope
Oh yeah. They all did. Well, of course, the 2 younger ones went to the new school, but the 3 of them went to the school, the Olympia School.
And of those 3 children that went to the early school?
Well, Paula is still here, is back now, and Linda is a teacher in California, and Sally is in California also. She is married, but she has her master's from University of Florida.
Did they ride the bus to go to the school?
Oh, they go to high school, but not the Olympia School. They walk to school. I think one of the interesting things that we always teased her about it is that Paula would carry this one boy, or anyone, across the hot pavement he was barefoot. She had shoes on, so she would carry him across the hot pavement.
Do you think it's good that they're trying to restore that building?
Oh yes, definitely.
It's an
Oh, yes. It's very nice.
Can you remember their teachers at all?
Oh, yes. Of course, there was Miss Baston, and she taught, oh, let's see, that would have been third, fourth, and fifth. Other than sometimes they had the third with the second grade, depending how many people, students there were there. And Mrs. Neese taught there also. I think she taught first, second grade, first, second, third, whatever. Oh, yes. And Mrs. I'm trying to think of another name. I can't remember.
It's more like a two-room schoolhouse.
It was a two-room schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse.
Oh, yes, a two-room schoolhouse. And that was the center of the activity in town. Everyone went to the PTA. They didn't have to have children, or they didn't have children, but they were involved in the PTA. And we had our regular programs every month, and the teachers always helped with them.
Do you remember what they called the school at that time?
I don't really
The
know.
Hope Sound School, or did they call it?
Probably the Hope Sound School.
Kind of surprises me that they're restoring it in the name of the Apollo School when it was called the Olympia School and all the literature.
Because it was Apollo's the name of the street. Olympia is the name of the town, of that little area that was given way back in the 20s. But Olympia Street is a couple blocks over.
I'm amazed at the background you have gotten, like on your property and on the area. I mean, some people don't even know what Olympia is all about.
Oh, yes, I know.
Do you just have an interest in getting studying up on the background of things?
Oh, I like history. I like genealogy. I like those type of things.
So though you are a newcomer, relatively, coming in
yes.
1952, you have known some of the people who came early on. So would you just maybe mention one or two that you know were there long before you?
Well, this elderly lady, Mrs. Hart, was just a very lovely lady. I used to take her for a drive down the island, and she would point out the different places and where she had lived. And she had loads of stories about the island, and just a lovely lady. I think she came in, she told me it was either 1901 or 2 as a bride, and there was, of course, no bridge. And I thought one of the things she told me is that they had one of the first cars in Martin County, but it was probably called Palm Beach County. No, Palm Beach or Dade. Dade.
Very good.
Oh, it was Dade before that.
But I don't know if they would have gotten the car that early. But I didn't
They got the car. I'm not sure just when it was. It must have been in the teens sometime. But she told me there were only 7 cars in the county.
And that would have been Palm Beach County since it was formed in 1909. So can you imagine 7 cars?
7 cars in the total county. And the road at that time was just what is A1A now, and it was not paved, she told me. 1 lane. And I said, well, how did you meet a car? That's why when she told me there was only 7 cars. She said, well, you could see them coming down the road because of the dust. And the first person that got to a place they could turn out would turn out and wait for the other person to go past. The person that they had met would stop and wait to see that they got back on the road. I thought that was nice.
It's hard to believe that
Yes,
things
it is.
are that simple and primitive
Yes.
within the century. Last century, I guess.
Yes, but then I should have tried to get more stories from her, but I guess my time was sort of limited then too, because I had all my children to take care of, and I could only leave when my husband was going to stay there because one of us was there all the time. But I think the early stages we were very family oriented, and we didn't go the distance to see people because it was right in our own family. Probably because my husband and I were both from farm families, and we had been in rather comparatively isolated situations.
Since you were so close to Jupiter Island, did you have any famous people come over to you?
Probably, but I don't remember their names.
They kind of just came as regular people.
If they came and they liked us, that was it. But I never tried to think of them as famous people, but as friends and customers that came in.
Do you feel like you had a hard life?
No, I think I had a most interesting life. I worked from morning until night because we were open. We were open at 6 in the morning and many times till 12 at night. And my husband and I would take turns, although that staying up, because we were trying to make enough money to live and to rent the motels for the rooms.
And you're still working?
Oh, yeah.
You choose to work?
I choose to work. I choose to work. No one tells me that I have to work. No.
Don't you feel like you're a draw to the restaurant? Do you feel like
Probably. I may be it to some people, but to others, maybe they would have the other idea. Why is she still here? As depending on the attitude of the individual.
Will you tell me about the flower that you have in your hair, or why you wear flower in your hair? Not everyone does.
Well, I guess not, but both of my sons went to Hawaii, and my one son is still there, and I went to see him, and I was walking down the street with them, the two of them, and they picked a hibiscus and put it in my hair. So eventually I started wearing a flower in my hair because my sons had put it there.
Like a trademark, yeah.
So now it's a trademark, I guess, because so many people.
Do you think people would ask if you didn't have a flower in your hair? They'd worry?
No, they would know I forgot it that morning.
Oh, is there anyone else that you feel like is of a pioneer sort that may still be living that should be interviewed?
Well, I think Nathaniel Reed would be very good because he has been there a long time. He may not have lived there full years, but he was there for a lot of the development of Martin County. And of course there's Kathy Fox Spurgeon, who came when she was 3 months old, and Suzanne Diamond Martin, and Evelyn McGee Zorn, and her mother, Mrs. McGee. Her mother, I think, was born in 1912 in Hobe Sound. And I think she would be most interesting to listen to if you could get her to talk, because she's a very shy lady.
It's worth an effort.
Oh, yes, it is. But Evelyn, she will talk with Evelyn many times.
Is there anything you want to share about this county as it is today and how the changes you've seen? And maybe you're quite aware probably of the politics of trying to keep development control. Just say anything.
I think it's wonderful that we're working on keeping a control of the development. I know I got down here and I was a foreigner, but other people would like to come in too. But we can't all be here, and we are destroying our total water system. And without water, we're not going to survive. And a few people the people that are already here have to work more to take and be careful of the water. We're too wasteful with our water situation, and we depend too much on energy, not our own, but artificial energy. And I feel we have to get back to being careful of how we use our natural resources. Some of the things will have to be changed, I think, primarily at Tallahassee, because they've got to take and help make rules for the people in the county that will help us protect our environment. And I have a few pet peeves, of course, like everyone does, but we're very wasteful with our water. And we don't really understand how important it is to our livelihood. It's like I said to them, I like to have a beautiful roadway, but I don't want anything put on a roadway that's going to take water, excess water. If it can't live with the rain, then we should not plant it.
So you must be talking about the elaborate plantings we have in our meetings.
Yes, a lot of them are, and I don't think they're good. We don't want anything that the rain won't take care of. I know I have some at my house, but some of them I planted not knowing how much water that they would take.
You might as well, if you have other, not pet peeves, but wisdoms or whatever,
Oh, well.
this might be a time to just say them, because it might be something that we're interested in knowing.
It's probably all in relationship to our water situation, because there are lots of wells put down that the water is not good. So when you have good water, you must take and protect that.
You have this aerial on the wall at the restaurant.
Yes.
Does it look much different?
Well, of course, there's all of the buildings that's built now, and as I came here today to look at what South Fork is like now and when I first came, it's almost unbelievable. Because when I first came out here, it was right after it was built. There's a lot more been built here since then. Although I think this is one school I didn't teach at. But after I stopped teaching, I did substitute teaching, but then I stopped that.
You failed to mention that you were a teacher. That explains a lot, I think.
Oh.
So your teaching career, what did you teach?
Well, I have my BS degree in home economics, basically, with some extra minors. But I taught in Michigan just a couple of years, but then I worked for the government for 3 years. And then after I came here, they were short of teachers, and they asked me if I'd bring my credentials down. So I got my certificates and got it down here, and I taught in Martin County for 12 years. Most of the time at Stewart Middle School. Yeah.
What years were those that you taught there?
Now I can't remember when I first started teaching. Well, I was doing substitute teaching at first, and I know that was in '64. So probably '63 I started substitute teaching. I don't remember what year I started teaching.
Okay, well, that's just the general area.
You know, it was just happened to be the situation came around for me to teach. That's all. There was a vacancy, and I happened to be here. Yes, but many times I taught school and came home, and we didn't have the variety of food in the restaurant to take and serve, but I served meals until 9 o'clock at night.
Like hard work.
And I didn't have anyone to wash dishes.
Thank you.
It's been most enjoyable. I'm sure there's some other things I could have told you if I realized they might be important to you, but this has been very pleasant. Thank you.